anything but Philly special, the silver lining. Stephen A. brought this up earlier. The loss, now the Eagles will have the 6th pick in the draft instead of the 9th pick. Max, let me ask you this. Do you think Philly needs to just point blank clean house?
They need to fire Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman. And I don't say that lightly. We're talking about people's livelihoods. But it seems to me Doug Peterson's wanted out of Philadelphia the way he's coached in some of the games several weeks ago. Anyway, guys, I was there at the Super Bowl when the Eagles beat a Patriots team that didn't have to punt once. When the Eagles beat a Patriots team where Tom Brady threw for over 500 yards. Right? Like, that was big. And the culture of that team was such that they were able to withstand their starting quarterback, who that season I thought was the best player in football until he got hurt, Carson Wentz, out for the season. And their backup, Nick Foles, comes in. And the team catches fire in the playoffs and wins the whole thing. The last remnants of that culture were spent last night. You know, it's one thing. As I said earlier, guys, I'm not trying to hear about, what about the process with the Sixers? Different sport, different situation. It's one thing if there was, say, the Eagles thought Trevor Lawrence is all the difference. And if we lose this game, we get Trevor Lawrence, and if we win it, we don't. A lot of people disagree with me. I'd say, yeah, I get it. Even as a Giants fan, I get it. But to move up 3 spots in the draft from 9 to 6, which was clearly their plan, in my opinion. Look at the injury report before the game. No Fletcher Cox, no Miles Sanders, like one after another. You're like, they're not really playing their best guys. In spite of what Doug Peterson pointed to a couple guys after the game. They're not playing their best guys. They're not trying to win. And they were down 10-0. And sure enough, the plan was working. Roseman and Peterson's plan seemed to be working. But Jalen Hurts wasn't going to do it. Jalen Hurts wasn't going to roll over like that. And he brought them into the game and had a lead. And I'm not even talking about the decision to go for it on 4th down instead of kicking the game-tying field goal. There was plenty of time left, and I do believe in the analytics in that situation. And more than that, don't be scared of the negative outcome. Go for it. I get it. But when that doesn't work, you pull the starter? You pull Jalen Hurts? Guys, I said this about the Carson Wentz situation, a month ago? I thought everyone involved in that debacle had to go. But now, if it were me, if I were Jeffrey Lurie, they'd be gone this morning. It had already have happened. Because what Jeffrey Lurie has to show is at least at the very top, he's not going to play it that way. When the guys fight their guts out, play their hearts out in order to be in a position to win, when it seems like there's nothing on the line, you can't roll over then and hand the other team the victory. You can't do it. In the NFL, that kind of culture is not going to work. And at the very least, the owner has to show that he understands that. Stephen A.
First of all, I vehemently disagree with you. I don't believe that the Eagles should clean house with Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman. That's number one. But number two, and more importantly, I think that it's a damn shame I'm quite sure the American public turned a blind eye and a deaf ear to what you had to say on this particular subject. And if it wasn't my job, I would have done the same. I would not have heard a damn word that you've had to say. And here's the reason why, Max Kellerman, because even though we're talking about football as opposed to basketball, I would remind you that basically, in my mind, what you are saying is that it's all right to lose on purpose in pursuit of ultimately capturing a championship. But for somebody who's won a championship and took a team to the playoffs 3 times in his 5 years as a coach, this would be the first time he's missed the playoffs in the last 4 years. And as a result, he should be fired because he's missed the playoffs, because the culture is bad, et cetera, et cetera. Last time I checked, if you've already shown the ability to win a Super Bowl championship, why can't you get an opportunity to restart? How come you can't sit up there and go like this? All right, this is a bad season. We did a bad job this year. We've got to correct the error of our ways. It seems to me that Max Kellerman is saying that person doesn't deserve a chance. But the people that lose on purpose, time and time again, breaking all kind of records, losing games in pursuit of building a culture that ultimately will culminate in a championship. Oh, they deserve all the latitude in the world. But the person that actually won a championship, because now this looks to be going in the wrong direction, they don't get an opportunity to correct themselves. That's where I think it's appear to fall by the wayside and just go in different directions. Because Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl champion because they've won to the playoff. They went to the playoffs the last 3 years. And this is the first year in the last 4 years they will have missed the playoffs. I think Doug Peterson, don't get me wrong, he was lying last night, talking about trying to win, lying through his damn teeth. But I think Doug Peterson ultimately deserves the right to sit up there and go like this. Can I get a redo? This was a bad year. I messed up. I messed up with Carson Wentz. I messed up, period. Can we get an opportunity to redo this next season? I'd say he deserves that.
Any lingering remnant of that Super Bowl win as it relates to the kind of glory that redounds to the coach or the GM was spent last night, Stephen A. I don't disagree that you get a lot of equity by winning a Super Bowl, but they've been spending it in recent years, and last night did it. They lost the locker room. Trust me. That locker room's not going to respond to those guys anymore. And if you want, look at Jason Kelce's media availability. Google it from December 16th. It's well worth your time. Just listen to what he has to say. And all that, they do all that so they can pick 6th instead of 9th. Guys, that's usually not going to make a difference, but particularly with Howie Roseman, who has he selected since Carson Wentz that has made a Pro Bowl? That was 5 years ago. Stephen A., the answer is no one. They haven't selected anyone in the draft that's made a Pro Bowl. And by the way, they've taken receivers ahead of DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. So even if you do move up, you trust that GM? Even if you think, no, 9 to 6 is a big deal, you trust that GM?
Hey, Matt.
You trust that guy who can't
Stop asking questions.
5 years
Stop
to
asking
make the right
questions
choice?
and then answering them. Stop asking questions and then answering them. Ask the question and let somebody answer it, because I got a question for you.
Okay.
Max Kellerman, if somebody came up to you and said, I messed up. You're a grown man. If they said I messed up, all right, this won't happen again. You trying to tell me grown men in that locker room are not going to be receptive to that?